I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, July the 28th, brought to you in part by Safeguard. Safeguard wants to know, is your dewormer working? Text the word SAFE to 48109 to find out. You can also enter to win a Traeger grill. Look into Safeguard Wormer. Largest Salebarn draft ever? I don't know about that, but on Wednesday, it's the largest one that I've ever seen or heard of. I'm not talking about in a video sale or even a board sale or something that's not on site, but I'm talking about in a brick and mortar sale barn. What's the biggest draft, the largest draft number of head that you've ever heard of? Well, on Wednesday, in Reno at OKC West, we saw the Speak Ranch sell 762 head in one whack. Now they offered up several loads there and then give the buyer the option, and they took them all. But that 762 head was not the largest draft that we had on Wednesday. In fact, it was in Nebraska at Huss Livestock Market in Kearney, Nebraska. Walker Cattle Company had 911 head of 906-pound steers. They bring 180 bucks. Now they had 30 drafts to weigh. They offered up several loads there and then give the option, and the guy cleaned the slate. But my goodness, have you ever heard of 911 head of cattle selling at one price through an auction sale? But very impressive, and it just goes to show you that the auction method of marketing cattle is not only viable, it's not only still alive, it's growing. And and that guy wouldn't have brought those cattle in. He would have had no problem offering those cattle up in the country. I'm sure he's probably sold them in the country at some point before. The Speak Ranch there, they handle lots and lots of cattle there, sell them all through the ring there at OKC West. Why did they do it? Because they feel like they're getting the best price that they could get. If let's say the Walker Cattle Company decided to offer those cattle up in the country, they said, what do you think they'll weigh? Well, let's base them at 9, and I'd like 180 bucks. Well, they'd think he was absolutely crazy. They wouldn't bring that. There would be absolutely no way they'd do it. And you think, well, gosh, he's got to pay commission. He's got to haul them in there. Big deal. He put them in front of well-respected buyers, come across, scales. They're stamped and good. And he knew that he was going to get a competitive bid on those cattle. That's why he sold them that way. But my goodness, what good prices these cattle are bringing. And I told you last week that we were going to have a lot of yearlings this week and be kind of cleaning these summer yearlings up. And man, are we. We've been having good runs all over the region from coast to coast. Everywhere you look, they're having big runs of yearlings, and we're pretty much cleaning them up. I've got another week or two, maybe 3 in the Flint Hills and the Osage, and that'll pretty much clean them up of their summer yearlings for the most part. There'll be a few deals after that, but it's been dry in so many places that a lot of those guys are having to move those cattle. We're going to have some big runs in the winter livestock barns this weekend and next week, clean up their yearlings, but very impressive prices. And we just wonder, how much longer are these feeder cattle buyers in the feedlots that are putting the orders out? How much longer are they going to continue to push the envelope and keep giving more and more for these summer grass yearlings whenever our fat cattle market continues to fail us? Now, yes, you look at your futures market out front, and it says 150 for 150 and a little better for early next spring. And I've said it several times. I want to see your 5-area weighted average 150 before I'll believe it. We still got guys selling cattle lower this week. We got to turn that around at some point. We've got August to go through. Now, likely we're going to be in a lot more of a current situation than we are in a typical August, but you look at your carcass weights, You look at the grading and all that kind of thing. It tells you that you know, we're starting to get back into some cattle that we're going to have to work through. You know, I'm not saying that we're getting bogged down by any means, but we're not green like we were a few weeks ago by a long shot. And especially in the southern plains, you know, they've been sucking hind tit all summer here and selling, you know, $7, $8, $10, $12 behind what the northern plains is selling. But you look at those cattle there that sold at Huss Livestock Market, and you know, good cattle up in the north where they feed the cattle the best. They have the best cattle, they got the best grading cattle, and they negotiate for the best market. But still, 180 bucks. You know, you figure if those cattle feed at $1.20, and you don't even add in very many expenses, they're going to break at 157. So if they break, and you think, oh, I'll feed them a whole lot cheaper than that, cheaper than $1.20. Well, with $6 something corn, you know, you've got opportunity cost of that corn. You could sell that corn, but you know, those cattle aren't going to feed from the ring. You've got to get them to where they're going. As high as freight is right now, it's going to cost, you know, even on you know, just minor expenses, it's going to cost $1.20 to feed those, cost of gain. They're going to break at 157, and you think, well, you look out there at February, you're going to drag them all the way out till February and hedge them off that board. It's setting at 150.212. Now, a lot of people are calling the CME live cattle futures the Texas board, because that's pretty much what it's been lining up with, is the Southern Plains fat cattle market, and namely the Texas market there, which is the worst of the 5-area feeding region. And you think, well, you know, if they get those cattle to 152 and they've got a $7 or $8 basis there, you know, I'll get along pretty good. But I'm not thinking it's going to continue like this. We're already starting to see the Southern Plains and the Northern Plains market come together a little bit. Now, there's probably going to continue to be a premium for the Northern Plains cattle. They've got regional packers up there. They've got higher grading cattle. You know, they've got more packers up there, and they've got people negotiating. That's the main thing. They got people that are negotiating, and they have some leverage in the market. In the Southern Plains, the guys are more than just willing to puke those cattle up at whatever the packers are offering, because if they try to hold the packers' feet to the fire, the packers will just say, okay, well, I won't be calling you back for, you know, 3 weeks or a month. You can sit on the few cattle that you have in loose hands to sell on the open market, because I've got plenty of cattle to pull off these sweetheart formula deals, and I'll just do it that way. But you're already betting on the come, figuring in a loss. You know, if you haul those cattle, you know, any miles to speak of, then you're going to have extra expenses. Say you stub your toe, one gets sick or gets acidosis or something like that, hurt one in the chute, anything can happen. You're quickly up at a 160 break even on those cattle. And those cattle aren't even that high in the whole realm of things up there in Nebraska, especially. You know, I'm going to give you some quotes late in this report that's going to, you know, blow your hat off. Now, just kind of figure what those cattle will be breaking whenever I tell you about those. But that's kind of the market, you know. You look at August feeder cattle spot, you know, we're almost in August right here now. It closed at 179.10 on Wednesday. That's pretty much the market. I realize it's not your index levels yet, but if we continue to do this, it'll be there. But we just wonder how much longer they can do it. Now, granted, I love it. I'm tickled to death that the backgrounders are making some money this round. They deserve to make some money this round, and likely it was the first time a lot of them took out protection through the LRPs. So that cost them a little bit of premium there, but at least they're comfortable with doing it. But I tell you what, they're going out on a limb here. It's a lot of fun to be at the feeder cattle auction, see those cattle going through there, and you like those cattle. You figure how good they're going to gain, and you like their condition and everything. But you know, when it comes to, once you latch the gate on those cattle when they get to the feedlot, your options are pretty much over. You're at the mercy of those packers then, because when those cattle do get finished and fat, they've got a shelf life on them, and you've got to move those cattle. But I just hope that we can get this fat cattle market to come to us a little bit more than it's been known for here for the last several years. If we had Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, I'm not saying your market would be better all the time, but I am saying that we would have price transparency, we would have negotiation in there, competition. How do you get higher prices? Through competition. What's the first thing that you have to do when you enter into one of those alternative marketing agreements? The first hoop you got to jump through, you got to promise all your cattle to one packer, eliminating all competition. But guys just think that's the great way to go. You know, they can continue to ride on the coattails of the other guys that are trading negotiated cattle and establishing a base price for them until your packers get enough cattle through these other means, through the formula, through the grid, through the contracts, places like that, and they think that they don't need negotiated cattle at all. They'll do the same thing that they did to the hog guys in 1998. Once they don't think that they need any cattle in a negotiated manner, then they'll just rub them completely out. They'll drop that market to nothing, and then you will absolutely be at the mercy of the packers if you're on one of those sweetheart deals. If you don't believe me, hide and watch. If you think I might be right, get behind this Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. Help Deb Fisher and Chuck Grassley. You think Chuck Grassley's not a stud? I mean, way up in the deep in his 80s, and just I tell you what, pulling his weight all over Washington D.C. If you're watching the news every day, but you know, he looks good. He's articulate, much better than President Magoo. And he's on top of his game. He knows what's right. He's working for his constituents. He knows they got the best cattle. He knows there's more of them trade negotiated. He knows they're trading those cattle at a higher price. He would like to see that continue for their children and grandchildren if they could. But he's been behind this for a long, long time. Let's talk about your board on Wednesday. August live cattle futures down 7 cents at 136.80. October was down a nickel, 142.32. Talk about your back months on live cattle. They range from unchanged to up 27 cents. So not really too much going on in your live cattle pits. And like we said, open interest is very, very light in your live cattle pits there. Feeder cattle futures, August contract up 167 at 179.10. September up $1.42. We didn't get hardly any of that bearishness from your cattle and feed report. However, we didn't get much bullishness from your inventory report that happened the end of last week. It's all been pretty much just due to what's the things that's made your grains go up and down, and then your feeder cattle have just kind of been on a pulley. But your grains were actually steady to higher on Wednesday, and your feeder cattle were still supported. Of course, when you got guys blowing their brains out in the feeder cattle auction, and that's well reported, your traders are going to listen to that. But September up 142. Wednesday at 181.85. Your back months on feeder cattle up 40 cents to up $1.25. Corn, Chicago Board of Trade futures settled regular trading up 2 1/4 cents at 6.03 a bushel. That's new crop December. Beans, November new crop up 26 1/4 cents at 14.10. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September down 15.5 cents a bushel at 8.61 3/4. Fat cattle trading continued on Wednesday, but we've yet to see the bulk of our trade. We may have seen it in Nebraska because they're not trading very many cattle these days here, but we have not seen a bulk of trade in Iowa or in the southern plains really to speak of. But of course, your Colorado, it's kind of like LA Confidential, but Colorado Confidential. We don't get to see what's going on in Colorado because there's not enough players. We've only got 1 to 2 packers doing any business at all, direct basis in those Colorado feed yards. So that's not enough to get the information through confidentiality. We don't get to see what's going on there. Iowa cattle feeders sold 3,500 head confirmed on Wednesday, 5,900 head for the week so far, which is nothing. Live sales on Wednesday confirmed from 141 to 145. That's all steady with last week. 224 to 227, that's hanging right in there. Nebraska sold 14,400 head on Wednesday. That'll be the bulk of their sales probably, but pretty good movement on Wednesday. Live sales from 138 to 141. Now that'd be a pinch weaker there, and that's likely why they sold so many. Dress sales a wide range there from 222 to 230. Kansas only 300 head on Wednesday confirmed, but 5,000 have moved through the week so far. But the live sale price on Wednesday was 137, and that's better than what we've seen in the cattle trading in the Southern Plains already this week at 136, but the 137 would be steady. Texas had no confirmed sales on Wednesday, moved 4,100 head for the week, mostly at 136. Box beef cutout values were lower on Wednesday afternoon. Choice cuts 267.99 down $1.12. Selects down 207 at 241.81. Your slaughter moving right along, 374,000 head harvested up through Wednesday, exactly the same as where we was at this time last week, and 17,000 more than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services in and around the center of the country there, mostly in Oklahoma and the outskirts, surrounding areas from Oklahoma, but they can help you wherever you're at. And they can answer the questions. They know the answers to them. They've done those deals, done jillions of them, and they can answer your questions if you're just curious about what the LRPs are, what they're going to cost you, where you can lock those prices in, how much the government will help paying your premiums, and what your bottom line is going to be. Give them a call at Livestock Risk Services for your LRP professionals. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday sitting at 170.210, crawling up there closer to what your August feeder cattle is, and we're almost to August, but that was up 76 cents from the change of Tuesday's close there, and that's $1.50 higher than what your CME cash feeder cattle index is. Of course, we're always running about a day and a half or so ahead of CME cash feeder cattle index, and it'll eventually come up there and meet us probably whenever we start going down the other way. But talk about some sales that are coming up here on Thursday. Mitchell, South Dakota, Mitchell Livestock is going to have 3,300 head in just 3 consignments. They've got some big strings of cattle. I saw a big long string, about 1,000 head of all natural heifers. They've got some weight to them. They have been backgrounded in some lots there, so probably not the best option there for replacements, but make you some really great feeder heifers there. But they got a big long strings in there, but they're going to have about 6,000 altogether. But like I said, about half of those are going to come out of 3 consigners. Also, one of my very best friends, Mike Frieden from Fawcett, Missouri. He's an old St. Joe stockyard guy, and he works and commissions cattle into Maryville Livestock Auction with Tom Runyon there out of Oklahoma that went up there and bought that sale, and doing a good job up there. He's going to have his home raised green grass yearlings in there. He's got a big load of cattle. It'll weigh probably 9 1/4. Nothing fancy, but sure enough northern kind, good enough to go anywhere, and they all are black baldy. He's got another half a load of lighter steers there. Larry Runyon, my friend there from Stewartsville, Missouri, he's the cousin to Tom and the son of one of the icons in the industry, Jim Runyon. But Larry's got a long string of green grass yearlings, and he may have backgrounded those some there at his lots there around Stewartsville, but he always leaves a lot of meat on the bone, and he knows how to do that. But going to have a good sale at Maryville Livestock Auction, Maryville, Missouri, up in the northwest corner of the state. Talk about some big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 9,200 head there. Did have some calves on Tuesday at the calf sale on Tuesday, but a good sale there. at El Reno on the yearlings on Wednesday. A lot of long strings on there. I've already told you about one of them. I'll tell you some more about them here in a minute. But feeder steers in El Reno, $3 to $7 higher. Just keep going higher, guys. Feeder heifers in El Reno, steady to $2 higher. Calves, $5 to $10 higher in El Reno on Tuesday. It was just a higher market there, guys. Temperatures have kind of cooled down. We're not seeing the 107, 108 every day, kind of in the mid to high 90s. Got lots of chances for rain coming across Oklahoma. Actually rained here in my hometown of Canyon, Texas. Getting rain up in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Did have one smart ass comment on my YouTube video here a day or two ago, and I said they were expecting some pretty decent rains in Oklahoma. Evidently in his one spot in Oklahoma they were only expecting a ½ inch, and he said, oh, that's not a very good rain. Well, Oklahoma's a big place, and they've already got some pretty decent rains there this week. Are expecting much better rains coming this week with some big systems coming over the north part of the Texas Panhandle, through the Oklahoma Panhandle, into the meat of northern Oklahoma, and in southwest Kansas there. But hope guys that need rain will get it, and we've been waiting for this deal to come through. But I told you, the Speak Ranch markets their cattle in El Reno, Oklahoma. They had 762 head of steers. They averaged 887 at 170, 275. And you think, why did they sell them all like that? They didn't. They sold a couple of hundred of them there and offered the option on them. Sold to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder cleaned the slate right there. And that's how you do business, and that's the way you market those cattle, to the highest bidder. How about Winter Livestock, Dodge City, Kansas? 1,700 head there. That's a lighter run, but they're going to get ready for their big sale coming up here on Saturday. The King of the Ring auctioneer contest, going to have 8,500 head on offer there. The public is welcome to come. They usually have a sponsored lunch there. It's a good time. You want to hear some of the best auctioneers anywhere. Kind of an invitation only deal. The winner of that King of the Ring auctioneer contest gets a check for 10 grand and a Rolex watch. That makes it the richest auctioneer, livestock auctioneer contest there is out there. So it's kind of the ruby in the belt buckle there. So I know we're getting a lot of auctioneer contests out there, but it's the daddy of them all right now. But they were kind of unevenly steady in Dodge City on 1,700 head on Wednesday. Looking forward to that big sale on Saturday. And then August the 3rd, next Wednesday, they're going to have their anniversary sale, have another 6,000 yearlings there. And then they'll be pretty much cleaned up on the summer yearlings there for a while. Pratt, Kansas will be having some specials here going forward too. Expecting a pretty good run here this Thursday. And then of course the Winter Livestock will have their video sale with several yearlings strings on that deal too coming up this weekend. But talk about some other sales all around. How about Twin Falls Livestock Commission, Twin Falls, Idaho? My friend Jake Billington right there, I talk to him pretty regular. He told me about a string that I found on Cattle Market Central. 244 head of big feeder steers in Idaho, weighed 898 at 170 and a quarter. And he said, well, that wasn't even the best deal we had. Had a dispersal of pairs, 37 head, but sure be a load or better of them off one place. And they were young to middle-aged pairs there, had some good size to them, and really nice calves. Looked like they'd weigh 300 pounds or better on there. 3-in-1 deal, had the calves at the side and bred back with an average price on those pairs at $2,510. They've got grass in Idaho. That's one place they have had some moisture and got pretty good grazing. Talk about some other places. How about Northeast Georgia Livestock? They had their board sale. They're a DV auction customer there, doing a good sale out there in Georgia. I believe it's the biggest sale in that state right now. But they had a board sale on Wednesday, sold a load of local 700-pound steers at $184, guys. Get a hold of them for your marketing needs. How about over in Kentucky, Bluegrass Stockyards in Albany, Kentucky? They had one load of fancy black heifers right there. They were not replacements. I don't know. Somebody needs to be putting replacements together, because all these fancy heifers I see have been implanted. They've already been backgrounded on feed or something, that nobody's keeping any replacements back, and they need to be doing it, guys. But a load of fancy black heifers there. Feeder heifers weighed 560, Albany, Kentucky at 194.75. But I haven't talked about the Zoetis stick out sale of the day. Guess who? Bassett, Nebraska. 8,200 head. My goodness, I wished I was in the corral bar there on Wednesday night in Bassett, Nebraska. They'd be hooping and hollering there, guys. But compared to that 2 weeks ago sale where they had the big special, the barbecue special, feeder steers over 900 pounds were another $2 to $3 higher. Now the ones weighing under 800 pounds were about steady, but the cattle that just weighed in the 8 weight range there were about $6 lower. But when I give you the weighted average on them, you're going to say, what? That can't be lower. But look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central out of Bassett, Nebraska. 688 head of 6 weight steers, 655 on the average, with a weighted average price of $212.01. Now, be a lot of NHTC cattle in there, but they're going to feed right down the alley from the ones that aren't. How about 510 head of 8 weight steers, averaged $822 in Bassett, with a weighted average price of $194.37. They called those $6 lower. Sounds pretty stout to me. How about 1,260 head of 9 weight steers in Bassett, Nebraska? They averaged $944 with a weighted average price of $184.90. And then the biggest, best test of heifers was in the 7 weight category. 1,235 head of 7 weight heifers, averaged $757 with a weighted average price of $179.28. And your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, of course, is going to come out of Bassett, Nebraska. Individual quotes, couldn't make up my mind. They're both NHTC or non-hormone treated cattle. How hard is that? Just don't implant them and get your paperwork filled out, guys. 142 head of 808 pound NHTC steers bring 209. But the one that I thought was the most impressive was 160 head, 697 pound NHTC steers in Bassett, Nebraska bring 214.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.